Guys, what's up? How's it going? It's John, Gamester81. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing, for turning on those notifications, and just for some of the support of this channel. That's amazing. This video, I want to talk about the 10 games I wish were included in the Sega Genesis Mini. I've done a video and review over the Sega Genesis Mini recently. Overall, in a nutshell, I think it's a solid unit. It's much better than the PlayStation Mini, which I know is insane much, but it is definitely worth looking into purchasing. There's 42 great games included already. A couple wishes I have that I think would make it even a better system would be the ability to expand, have some type of micro SD slot so you can actually add games to it. I know the Commodore 64 unit Mini did that, for example, where you can play games, or ability to download games. I think if they had a marketplace of some sort, like maybe some type of eShop, so to speak, that'd be awesome. But here are 10 games definitely you guys should check out for the Genesis. Hopefully, one hope that I have for the Genesis Mini is it's going to renew interest in the Genesis again, whether it's the older generation like myself, who grew up playing it in the 16-bit wars, or the millennials, or the younger audience, the kids. So these are 10 games I wish were included. Definitely 10 games you could check out for the Sega Genesis.
Number 10.
The list is Joe Montana Sports Talk Football. It came out in 1991. The Genesis, for me back in the day, was really well known for the sports titles, this one being included. Also the fighters, right? The shmups, that's kind of what the Genesis was known for. Where the Super Nintendo back in the day, for me, was known for the RPGs, the platformers, etc. So this is definitely a sports title to check out. I remember going to my friends, seeing this game for the first time, and being blown away at the audio, the fact that there was commentators. We get spoiled with Madden football today, but this is one of the first groundbreaking football games to introduce commentators, actual people speaking. And for a 16-bit cart with limited memory, that's pretty amazing to think about. It plays very similar to, I guess, Tecmo Super Bowl. It's got where it goes left to right, but obviously more advanced than that with game calls and all that good stuff. But this is definitely a sports title to check out.
Number 9.
Number 9 on my list is Mega Turrican. It's developed by Factor 5. The Turrican series is definitely a series to check out. It's a run-and-gun shooter. It's got some incredible upgrades like you would expect from a shooter, but also kind of what you expect from a shmup. It is a really fun game, colorful graphics, the visuals, the sprites, the movements of the sprites just blows my mind even today, the way they figured out the movement, how they roll, for example. The one thing I don't like about the game is you can't fire diagonally, you can't fire up, which is odd, but again, the weapon upgrades are great, definitely a game to check out.
Number 8.
Number 8 on my list is Spider-Man Venom Maximum Carnage. Now I realize this game came out in 1994. It was also ported to the Super Nintendo, so it's not exclusive to the Genesis by all means, but this is the first port I ever played. It is based on a comic during the time, and the cutscenes are actually visually look like kind of comic book scenes, which is really cool. It's a great beat 'em up. You can play, you start off as playing Spider-Man, then later on you meet Venom, you can kind of choose. The attacks are unique and very cool, kind of to that character. The enemies do get kind of repetitive, to be honest with you. This is a game developed by LGN, surprisingly, because a lot of LGN games aren't very good. This is a unique exception. This is definitely a game worth checking out for the Genesis.
Number 7.
Next on my list is Outrun. Outrun is a great port to an arcade that came out in the 80s by Sega. The Genesis port is really cool. It came out, there's a port for the Sega Master System, but the Genesis port visually looks great. You drive a Ferrari. It's you against the clock, essentially. There's really no other racers in the game, although they're vehicles they have to avoid. But it's like a choose your own adventures, choose your own paths. So there's different paths you can take. So the replay value is definitely there. The music, you can select from the very beginning of the screen. I just think I love the subtle details with the wind blowing in the hair when you crash, the characters fly out of the car. Subtle details, to me, make this game stand out than any other racing game at the time. And this is a great port for the Genesis. I'm a little confused why they didn't include this. They included Road Rash, which is still a great racer, but this is, to me, a better racer, and Sega has a rights to Outrun, so I'm kind of confused why this wasn't included in the Mini, but nonetheless, it is a game to check out.
Number 6.
Next on my list is Michael Jackson Moonwalker. This is a game based on kind of the mini movie by Michael Jackson, but there was an arcade that Sega did, which is a beat 'em up, kind of a top-down beat 'em up, very unique. You can play up to 3 players. This game is a completely different game than that, though. Music is obviously based on Michael Jackson's music. So the soundtrack is great. The goal is to save children, which is kind of creepy looking back on it. But you have this special ability where if you hold down I believe it's B. You can do a spin. You hold that, keep holding that down. You can actually get all the enemies on the screen to dance with you, and it basically eliminates them all. But it takes a huge chunk of your health out, which is kind of disappointing. But there's different stages. I think there's like 5 or 6 stages in this game, and it's a really fun one. Definitely one to check out. I know once Michael Jackson passed away, the value of this game skyrocketed. I think it's kind of fallen a little bit since then, but definitely one of my favorite games for the Genesis.
Number 5.
Next on my list is Jurassic Park. This is Jurassic Park. This came out in 1993, but what's unique about Jurassic Park, the series itself, when it comes to gaming, every platform had its own unique game, right? So you have the Super Nintendo version was totally different than the Genesis, totally different than the Sega CD, totally different than the Game Boy, totally different than the PC version, for example. So every platform you had got you a reason to purchase basically Jurassic Park. This port, though, for me really stands out. You can play either as the person, Grant, I think his name is. You can also play as the Raptor. So there's kind of 2 ways to play this game. There was a follow-up called like Rampage Edition, I believe. That was the continuation of this. And they also had Lost World that came out for the Genesis. But this one really started it all. It's a really hard game. I just think the gameplay-wise is better and superior than the Super Nintendo port, where that's more of a top-down one. And parts of the Super Nintendo port, also parts of that is like first-person. But this one, it's fun playing as a Raptor. I particularly like playing as a Raptor, killing humans and stuff. This is the first game that actually got a rating for the Genesis back in the day. I think it was like GA, General Audience, is what they gave it, even though you're attacking humans. There's no blood in the game, for example. But Jurassic Park, definitely one to check out.
Number 4.
Mortal Kombat! Anyway, I could go on. I love that song. I love the commercial where people just scream in Mortal Kombat. Based on the arcade, classic arcade, this is one of the best home ports at the time. This is what was cool about this port compared to the Super Nintendo port was that this had the blood, where the Super Nintendo one did not. There's a huge controversy of it. You had to put in a code to access the blood, but it did have the blood. And I thought that was a good way of going about it, because initially out of the box, if you're a young kid and your parent, if the kid didn't know the code, they couldn't see the blood. And to me, that's kind of what's made Mortal Kombat unique, was the fact that it was gory and violent and all that good stuff. But graphically, it's not as good as Super Nintendo port. Control-wise, it's not as good as Super Nintendo port. But for me, what stood this port out from the Super Nintendo port is the fact that it had blood. Definitely a game worth checking out for the Genesis. It's crazy, just as on a personal note. Growing up, huge fan of this game. I've gotten to know the actual actors in this game fairly well through Game On Expo. They've been guests at the show for years. Daniel Pacina, for example, plays Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero. It's all the same guy. And it's cool to say I consider him a really good friend of mine. And I would never thought as like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old growing up playing this game that I would have gotten to know these guys on a personal level. So it's just a personal note. I'm not bragging or boasting. I just think it's kind of cool that I would never thought that as a kid I would have known these guys, now as an adult, which is awesome. So definitely Mortal Kombat, great fighter, still is today, obviously with Mortal Kombat 11, but this is the one that started it all.
Number 3.
Sonic 3 is next on my list. Sonic 3 is a game I'm kind of surprised that was not included in the mini. They have Sonic 1 and 2, you have Sonic Spinball, I believe, but they don't have Sonic 3, and I've heard the reason that is because Michael Jackson helped with the music for this game. He was uncredited. I'm surprised that they didn't want people to know about this, but he was a huge Sonic fan. He helped with music, and maybe that's the reason why it wasn't included. But I believe it's been included in the Games ports of the Genesis. If I recall, call me out if I'm wrong, I'm incorrect in that. But anyway, it is a game that's a direct follow-up to Sonic 2. It's got more story than the other Sonics previously, from my opinion. Color-wise, it's not as great. Background colors aren't as sharp, unfortunately. Music's great, given that obviously MJ helped out with it, no surprise. And it's just a really fun game. And Sonic & Knuckles was developed around the same time. That was an expansion port. Again, that would have been great to see on the Genesis Mini as well.
Number 2.
Virtua Racing, this port came out in 1984. I believe the arcade came out in 1992. This is a racer. I remember seeing the arcade growing up, and when it was ported to the Genesis, I was really surprised. And the kart itself is larger than most Genesis karts. It really pushed the limits graphically for the Genesis. Polygon graphics. You have different viewpoints. You can either do like first person in the car seat, or you can do like a bird's eye view. Polygon graphics haven't really aged well today, but back then the graphics were amazing, and just the gameplay were very fluid and solid. This is a great, Sega at the time were known for racers, Daytona USA, Outrun, as I mentioned before. Virtua Racing is no different. They paved the way, pardon the pun there, to future racing games, and this is one definitely to check out, Virtua Racing.
Honorable mention.
There are some games on this list I'm going to shoot out some honorable mentions because frankly, there's more than just 10 I would love to see included because it's that great of a platform. I would love to have seen Golden Axe 3 ported. Golden Axe 3 was third one in the Golden Axe beat 'em up series. Came out for the Mega Drive in Japan. Only available in North America as a Sega Channel exclusive. We can only access it through the Sega Channel. So it was never available cartridge-wise. So it would have been really cool to see that ported. I would also love to have seen Sonic CD. I know they didn't include any CD games, but this is an emulation system. Let's face it, guys. They could have easily included Sonic CD in the port. The Sega CD had a lot of grief for being a system that had just basic ports of Genesis games. This is different. This is an exception to the rule, guys. This Sonic CD was exclusive. The intro music is amazing. The gameplay is amazing. It's just an amazing game. Another game I would have loved to see is NHL 95. NHL 95 is a great series for the Genesis. It's again, they probably didn't include it because the licenses for the NHL and the Characters Association. But I remember watching movies like Swingers. Highly recommended you check it out. It's Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn, very early movie, but they make a reference to this game and how you can make Wayne Gretzky's head bleed, etc. But this is a really fun game. The controls are solid. I've never been a huge NHL fan, to be quite honest, but this is definitely a game worth checking out. And those are my honorable mentions.
Number 1.
Number 1 game on my list is Aladdin. Now this game was ported to the Super Nintendo, however, it's a completely different game than this Genesis port. This one, to me, nothing beats this game. It sold over 4 million copies on the Genesis Mega Drive alone. Incredible success. And to think about how games marketed themselves back then compared to today, today you have social media. It's much harder to market a game back then. You had to do magazines, you had to do TV, all that. It was kind of delayed. This is obviously based on the Aladdin movie by Disney. The sprites were drawn by the animators from the movie, so it makes it kind of look some of the best sprite work you'll see in a 16-bit game, honestly. Music's based on the music from the game. This is a super challenging game. Cave of Wonders, making some of the timely jumps, super frustrating, but that's what makes these retro games so fun, is the fact that they're what I call retro hard. This is a game worth playing for the Genesis, worth picking up. There's other ones like Lion King and Pocahontas that are also done by the animation studios. They're also really well done, but this is the cream of the crop. Definitely one I wish that was included, and I'm sure it had to do with licenses by Disney. But although they did have Mickey Mouse games for the Mini, so I'm disappointed that this wasn't included, but I digress. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate you guys subscribing once again, and let me know if I left a game out. What are some games that you would love to see included? It would have been cool to see some Sega Master System games. There's Golden Axe Warriors, for example, which is kind of a Zelda clone. It plays completely different than Golden Axe itself. There's a lot of Sega Master System games that could have been included as well, because technically the Genesis could play Sega Master System games with an adapter, cartridge adapter. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys soon. Take care, and of course, game on.